Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal channel in our brand new studio location, i.e. my house.
Absolutely.
So it's our first early morning start in the new location. What do you reckon?
Very, very impressive. Absolutely fantastic.
I think it would be known as a man cave to most women, wouldn't it? There's this citadel.
Yeah, especially when you got the games console. I was playing retro games the other day, so I was like, I got the old PS2 out. I was like, yes! Then you find the Mega Drive collections on the PS2. You go, yes! Play Golden Axe, excellent.
Yeah, this is remarkable what you've created here in turnaround time of 6 days, something like that.
5-6 days since we got the keys and had to. I mean, we were lucky enough. The house here in this room here, it was all kind of done. So it was just literally a case of, and everything was boxed. We just kind of brought it all over, and it was just unboxing, building furniture. And then just trying to get ourselves ready for this, obviously, today. And we've had no Wi-Fi, so it literally the last 24 hours has just been trying to check cameras out, working out what's going to work. And even today's kept videos that we're doing, this is the first time doing it, so like really working out. We've got 3 different audio sources we're recording with to work out which ones work. So hopefully then the next time we do it, I'll know which one we're going to use, so I don't have to set up everything. Yeah, and we're just going to see how it all kind of works. But yes, today's video. I thought before we start into our usual reviews, I thought something came up on a. It was a comment made by one of our favourite bands, Lowdown, and obviously Dave Runham. It was a couple of weeks, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Okay. He was talking about he'd been offered a gig, and then he found out it was pay to play. And I thought I would ask the question about what's people's thoughts on pay to play. So if you're not sure what pay to play, there's a couple of different ways you can think about it. You've got the big tour buy-on pay-to-play, which is where bands pay a certain amount of money to go on a tour, which is fairly compact as being an opening band. That way you're getting the exposure of a big band. You get the pay-to-play, which is what I think he was referring to, which is you are expected to sell 30 tickets, and if you do not sell those 30 tickets, you've got to pay for it out of your own pocket. Either way, we want the money back at the end of the day. So that's pay to play, another version of pay to play. There's the other ones which are where we see with Juicebox Live, where they go, here's a discount code, and obviously the more tickets you sell, you do get money. But if you don't sell them, you're not penalised for it. Mm-hmm. But there's less likely you're going to get asked back if you don't sell tickets for it. And I think that's the main ones I've seen for the pay to play. And I'm really intrigued to know what you guys' thoughts are on those different kind of processes. But I'm going to go to Andy because you probably have a bit more thought on this. But Andy.
I did see Dave's comment, and my immediate thoughts were not exactly the options you described, but almost like you pay up front.
Yeah.
Here's, I don't know, 50 quid, 60 quid, whatever, £100 to put your band on the bill, and then depending on how the night goes, depending on how many tickets you sell as a band, how many tickets the venue sells, you may get. That was my interpretation of that phrase. But I've heard the scenarios you've described as well, particularly the first one where perhaps a smaller band are given the option of jumping on the tour with an established band. I think our friends Kane have taken that route a couple of times, and it's worked out for them because they do work hard at promoting themselves, promoting the gig. So that as an option for a band, I think is legitimate and something that would be worthy of consideration. The one I described, I would say thanks but no thanks. But then you've got the middle ground of the two where you're perhaps the juice box scenario where you're given an allocation of tickets to sell to your fans and followers, is sort of a sort of happy medium in as much as it gives you the incentive as a band to really push the gig without the sort of monetary outlay at the beginning. So yeah, I mean there's 3 options and sort of all two work reasonably well. The third one I'd stay well clear of as a band or anybody I was associated with. I'd suggest stay clear.
The one where you have to pay one way or the other. Yeah,
the upfront fee, or you're going to be out of pocket probably
if you don't
just to give the opportunity to play at a venue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the pay to play was very successful in the mid to late 90s with the Ozfest. But if you think about it, that would have been...
Was that the buy-on, you mean? Yeah, that part of it.
Yeah, but that would have been established record labels like Roadrunner putting their artist on. It's a good investment. If you're Cold Chamber are a band that's just come through on Roadrunner in 95, 96, it makes sense. And just think about in the era of CD sales, you would be expecting your units to shift, and the lineups were the biggest bands in the world, so that made sense. The Juicebox one, I agree with Andy, there is an incentive to get people there, and instinctively I'm hostile to the one that Dave Runham has described. And I always look at this from the perspective of Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, who he's always very clear, isn't he, about separating art and commerce. And the fact that that counterparty is taking no risk whatsoever. What are you paying them for? Their contacts, their address book, so that they can get you a gig at a venue, which you could probably go over their heads and try to approach there. So I think that really is a parasitic intermediary, and I'm willing to be corrected. I'm being asked to give an opinion on something that I don't know everything about, but the way it's been described, it's as predatory as that 360 music deal that a band will sign, and they give up their rights to their publishing, percentage of their merch, what they earn on the road. And come on, let's be honest, that is really damaging, certainly in the music we listen to, because you only have to look at the Spotify top 10. Rock and metal are just never in that, are they? In the top 10 songs. So we're talking about genres of music here that aren't really as mainstream as we think they are. But yeah, the Dave Runham one, I didn't read the post. I'm guessing Lowdown rejected the gig. Do we know if they did? What was the venue?
Don't know. He didn't go into any deals. Okay. He obviously didn't want to share that particular part because he didn't want to sort of call people out. But it was the question of the fact that, as you said, in the 90s and even the early 2000s, pay to play was quite a big thing, and it was a fairly common practice. We did it in Nothing Gained a few times, only for places like the Upper Room at the O2 Islington and stuff like that, where and we always sold our allocation. But this got me thinking, the reason I brought this up is because it got me thinking and thought, well, isn't every band gig pay to play? If you think about it.
Do you mean like the logistical costs of driving?
Well, no. Well, the idea is, if you do not sell tickets for your gig, then you have no gig. So when Nine Inch Nails go out and put on a concert, their job is to sell 60,000 arena tickets, let's say. So they've got to, for them to get paid and to pay everyone else, they've got to sell the tickets off their back. Yeah. Now, the fact they've got promoters to do it, but that's because then the venue's got to earn money, the bar staff have got to earn money, they've got to have people through the door. So the only way they can do that is if the band sell their tickets. Now, they got it through Ticketmasters because they've got it, but it got me thinking from the other end of the book as a promoter when this came up, and I was like, if a venue comes to you and says, right, it's a pay to play, we need you to sell 30 tickets, and the band go, no, we're not doing that. My first thing as a promoter is going, you're telling me you can't get 30 people to come and watch you play. Yeah. So why on the fuck would I book you? Because what you're telling me is I'm going to have to pay for staff, I'm going to have to pay for door staff, sound engineers, lighting, and you're going to turn up and bring no one, is what you're telling me. Or you want me to promote you when you can't be bothered to promote yourself, and you have no following, but you want me to generate your following for you.
So this is just a venue, isn't it, as well? I've got this wrong. It's not an agent.
It could be a promoter. It could be like let's say, for instance, Danny does musical sim promotions.
Yes.
Let's think of it from his point. Let's say he was doing tickets, which would make sense. Let's say Club 85, £330 to hire the venue, approximately, I think it is. So for Telescribe, we've hired the venue for £330. So we've got to cover that cost through ticket sales. So it's down to us. Right now, Club 85 are not going to push that. The promoter is whoever books it. That's their job. Now, we could turn around to each band and go, right, each band, you need to sell 10 tickets to be on this bill with us. That way, we know if 10 people go through at £10 a ticket, we've covered 300 quid. That means we can pay for the venue.
And that shouldn't be difficult. 10, come on.
Shouldn't. But then if you turn around to, let's say you book a band and they go, we're not bringing anyone. We look at some of the gigs we've been to at Club 85 where you've had literally maybe, when you take all the bands out of the room, you've got maybe 10 people in there. And you've got to remember, from the point of people like Cassie and Bob and that lot, they're obviously having to pay these people still, so they've got to try and find it. They get no money from the bar, so the only thing they get is from the door. So they've got to somehow do it, and that's where the promoters have to then step in and pay for it. So I actually thought about this from a pay to play, although I disagree with the idea of like being forced to do it. But then I have to go to the band and go, if you're saying you want to play a gig in Gravesend, let's say, and you know you've got no following down there, and they say it's pay to play, you're like, well, we know we're not going to get tickets, we're not going to be able to sell the tickets. Then why would you go and play a gig there when you know you're not? What you're saying is you're going to go there and hope to nick everyone else's crowd. That's what you're doing the gig for. You're hoping to build your following by someone else's crowd. You're not building the crowd yourself.
Yeah, it's smart then, isn't it? What we're saying is the agency are kind of doing the due diligence by putting this process in place, quality checking. Okay, so you're this metal band, you've got 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you played Metal to the Masses in Buckinghamshire in 2019, and you want to come and play in Gravesend, Kent. Okay then?
Sell me 30 tickets.
Yeah.
And if you can't, what you're telling me is you haven't got the following that you think you have.
I think what would worry me though is that now you've broken it down. You're right. Both parties, you've got to look at it from both angles. Obviously, you should always do that. I just think if it becomes a precedent, it's just one more blow to the artist, isn't it? I mean, if we move this up a notch, and it's a band that is signed, say they have a deal with Prosthetic Records, they're a death metal band, and they're from Yorkshire, and they want to play a bigger venue than the Black Heart, okay? You'd be able to give me one bigger than Islington Assembly Hall.
Any venue
something
bigger
like
than
that.
Black Heart, I think. Sorry, Black Heart.
Great venue for our city.
It's about the same size as my living room, Black Heart. I swear it is.
Let's say you want to play a venue that can hold 500 people.
Yeah.
You've got a label there as well that are supporting it, that's well respected, but even Prosthetic Records, they say we assist and develop bands, and then they move on to bigger labels. If that was the case, and they were trying to book a tour, because you would be expected to do a UK tour, wouldn't you? You know, you'd be going from Glasgow all the way down to Norwich, possibly, or even on the southwest. That would just become unsustainable for them, wouldn't it? But I guess the question is, well, if you want to do this tour, you've got to deal with an established and prestigious record label. Why don't you have the followers? But can you imagine if they booked 10 dates and they had to do this on every one?
See, I would be in the mindset of if you're the main band, etc., and you're all the bands that you're going. Let's say you're doing a tour with 3 or 4 bands, and you treat it as a pay-to-play, as a promoter. You go, okay, well, we'll promote it locally. However, this is the venue cost. Either way, one way or another, you need to cover those costs yourselves. However, once those costs have been covered, then you're in profit. So it's up to you to then sell your tickets, because then if the tour's shit, you're out of pocket on the tour. The promoter has to get his 10% of the overall cut, because that's part of his job for arranging it effectively. But I do think, it's almost like two extremes. Either bands that don't want to do it, and I'm not talking about Lowdown and Dave here, because I know they put a lot of work into it, but it's just his post was the one that triggered it. But there are a lot of bands that will just book gigs wherever, not on the pay-to-play, because they'll just get offered a gig and they'll bring no one. They'll do very little apart from the day before a gig. Go, oh, we're playing a gig. If you're free and you're in the area, come down. Yeah. Which is a pointless exercise, because who plans on the last minute to go to a gig? We planned so far, in Rotherham.
We're
We're
based in Baldock, but we've got a gig coming up tomorrow night in Bolton or Doncaster. Why don't you come along? That's a bit of a trek.
I see. There are certain venues for the right venue, and it was pay to play. I'd be like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We've done it we played the large O2 Islington, and we were told we needed to sell tickets. But it was the large O2 Islington, so we did. We worked our asses off to sell as many tickets, and we played on the large stage of the O2 Islington. But if then when someone said the Black Heart, I want you to sell tickets, I'd be like, well, I don't really give a shit. To be quite honest, I can't fit on the stage with my drum kit, let alone fucking anything else. And it's a very small venue, so it's not a venue that you could fit 20 people in there probably to actually watch. I'm sure Black Heart will comment if they're bothering to watch and tell us something different that you can get more people. But it feels when I went up there when it was empty, I felt like you could probably get 20 people in there comfortably. So I don't feel that would be something I'd do a pay to play for. Because I think anyone can really kind of go play. They put 4 bands on there. But if you've got a decent venue and the venue's like, well, look, if we're going to spend all our time doing this, then we want you to sell tickets for it. I think it's not. I don't think it's unfair for a venue to actually ask that.
Dave, sorry, Andy. Do you remember this time last year you were going to be playing Luton, the Castle, with Tribe of Ghosts and Spectral Darkwave?
Yeah. Nice form there. Just like, oh, cheers for that.
Am I right in thinking you pulled out in the end because there was just no communication with the promoters, other than knowing the time when you had to turn up to get the backline stuff sorted out? Why was that such an obstacle? Because it wasn't pay to play. Surely you would be happy that you're on the same bill as these 2 great bands.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, actually a Facebook memory today, the poster. So I think we announced it this time a year ago, and it was, where you went, was it?
Yeah.
Early March? Can't remember.
Yeah.
4 people.
In answer to your question, I don't think we even had the information of load-in time, to be honest. We had absolutely nothing. So it's a year ago, but we were asked to play, as you said, Tribe of Ghosts, Spectral Darkwave. We were very pleased to be asked. But as we I think my guitarist Sam was the main intermediary for this particular one, and he was saying he was just getting nothing back. He was sending messages. You know, in the good old days, he might have had to have picked up the phone and tried to speak to somebody, but now we communicate on other platforms. But he was just getting nothing back, and I think the weekend of the gig we rehearsed, and we decided logistically it's difficult for us all to get there as well, and we just didn't want to, you know, sort of risk turning up and going ahead. I mean, I was surprised it went ahead, and you said it was a sort of fairly decent night, but a disappointing turnout. So, you know, apologies for letting people down, but we just felt at the time it just wasn't a viable exercise.
Because Dave, your question would be, they probably would have benefited at least from a pay-to-play agency, because at least there would have been communication and incentives.
Pay to play would be pushing you on it.
The incentives alone
So,
you would have
just to
gone
wrap it up then, so on the pay to play, I'm interested if you're for or against pay to play. Okay, for or against?
on the different levels. There's three I've identified. The Ozfest one, you could still put that in the modern era. There might be bands.
There are still buy-ons,
Maybe not Bloodstock, but there'd probably be others, and you could be on the same bill as Opeth or Catatonia or
and
Paradise Lost.
large concerts as well, the buy-ons for the opening bands.
And your label will probably help fund that. So yes to that. The second tier, yes, you said that you played Islington. You could end up playing with your heroes, couldn't you? When a band's passing through town, say on a big tour, and you can buy that spot, the fourth band on, the first one of the night, yes. But at the I would say at the grassroots level, I don't like the precedent that it's setting. Even though it gives incentives, I would say no, I'm against it.
Okay, Andy.
Just echo Kirk's thoughts. Yeah, the same three answers on the different levels. Most applicable to me. And as I said, what came to mind when I saw Dave Runnan's post was the sort of the local grassroots level of pay to play. I wasn't sort of thinking in the bigger arena, but yeah, if you've got the opportunity as a hard-working up-and-coming band to jump on a tour or a show with an established artist, make that investment. But if it's one of the local shows and there's a chance of you being out of pocket even from that initial investment, I would say no.
I'm going to say 4, and purely the reason I'm going to say 4, and I know people will be like, "Oh, it's
all levels, all the three Kirks, all the three."
Because bands can always choose not to play. They don't have to go well. And then the answer is going to be well, we can't get a gig because everywhere's pay to play. And then the question is why not put one of those shows and then focus your effort on bringing your fans to that show? Now, you could say, well, you're putting money in the promoter's pocket, so that's all again about negotiating on those ticket prices, how much of that money goes back to you. But obviously, they've got to cover their costs. Mm-hmm. And that's the important, because what we're seeing 125 grassroots venues close in a week, a year, or whatever it was.
Scary, isn't it? Yeah.
Because they can't cover their costs. And what we're doing is putting 3 bands on that aren't promoting their shows enough, not bringing a crowd out, which means the venues can't keep their doors open. So we're losing venues because bands are playing way too many gigs in too small an area, and their fans are not coming out to all of their shows because they're just going around the circuit.
There's no scarcity.
So why not reduce the amount of gigs you do? And if you had to pay to play, you would promote that show, which would mean the venues would be earning money. The venues then would actually have enough money to stay open and will be able to put you. Once you're then big enough, the venues will headhunt you and say, actually, we want the other bands to pay to play, but we'll put you on as a headliner without pay to play. And that's my logic in it. Have I convinced either of you now?
Yes, yeah, as always. Yeah.
Has my argument convinced you?
No, that is very, very clear. You mentioned Kirk, or one of you said about playing any gig that's sort of thrown at you, and too often too close to locale. But if you have that sort of gig that everyone wants to look forward to, that you're pushing and promoting, then everyone's a winner.
Yeah.
Isn't they?
It's not the same bands playing the same circuit all the time, and there have been gigs that we've seen in the Hertfordshire scene where we're like, I'm not going to get out there. Oh, it's fine. I'll catch you next month when you're playing the same venue again as another support, and you don't go to see them, rather than it being that one chance you've got to see. So a good example is I'm going to say it. Lowdown was playing last night in 66 Bar, and I could have gone to see. Well, actually, I couldn't because we were at a house party. I did say I would go to it, but on the 10th of March, which is 3 weeks' time, they're playing the 66 Bar again. So I've got a choice. I can see them last night, or I can see them in 3 weeks' time at the same venue on an all-day fundraiser. which one am I going to do? Support multiple bands, like
Yeah.
8 bands, or see 4 bands where I pay on the door there, or do the fundraiser? I'm going to do the fundraiser, aren't I?
Another thing as well that you often see on sort of festival lineups, they use this sort of scenario to really sort of push the show and get people through the door. UK exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First UK appearance or something like that. You could use that kind of terminology and that approach to your pay-to-play show that you're really going to push, that is 6 months on from your last one.
And you see that the bands that have even the smaller bands that are in the grassroots, the ones that have the best turnouts are the ones that don't play very often. And when they do, they get a good turnout for it.
Yeah.
The ones that play the show because they want to do that 1980s mentality of building your following by gigging all the time are the ones that are playing to half empty or mostly empty houses, because they haven't moved out of the 1980s way of thinking of, which was build your following by gigs versus online presence. And that's that big switch. Although we're seeing a lot of bands now switching to this, getting the idea of actually we need to do online. Look, Kane's a great example. They've now started doing music videos, but they had 5 albums over the course of 10 years with no music video. Oh no, they did 1 music video. I think Gate to Hell or something it was called, or Go to Hell. But they weren't using multimedia. Now they put 2 new videos out and they're actually building a following and getting more presence, and finally have got onto that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And that's that little bit of using everything you can to move forward. But there you go, that's our take on pay to play. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Now, if you enjoyed our video today, please do like, share and subscribe, and we will see you on the video sometime very soon. Take care.